It is 12 p.m. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk with me, Maryam Mkwanda. So, we are going to be talking about healthy boundaries with the social worker from Islamic Careline, Shuhaida Adam. So, how do we kindly and proactively ensure healthy boundaries? It's not an easy task and oftentimes rather intimidating. Telling people what you might need might seem a bit selfish, aggressive, or even rude. But it's important as boundaries allow us to feel safe and respected both physically and emotionally. And here to talk more about this is Shahida Adam from Islamic Careline. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shahida, and shukran for joining me.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Always lovely to be on your show and discuss interesting topics that the listeners will find very relevant in all areas of their lives.
Hmm.
So,
And
your
earlier
introduction,
on,
you just spoke a little bit about different feelings. So we're going to cut through all of that and we will unpack it a little bit just to help people really unpack what are boundaries and how does it actually impact on them. And you spoke a little bit about how hard it is. So we'll unpack a little bit of that in today's program, inshallah.
inshallah. All right. So let us get straight into it. What are boundaries, and how do we build boundaries without making people feel like you're building up a wall, and you don't want to come across as being rude or defensive or aggressive, as I mentioned in the introduction. So let's start off by telling us what are boundaries.
Okay, so boundaries, essentially, you can look at boundaries as limits we put in place to
Yeah.
ensure our well-being in any type of a situation. So I know our understanding is that the topic today is on relationships, but let's look also at it's not just going to be personal relationships. So it's not just going to be between a couple in a marriage.
Yes.
Boundaries will exist in social friendships, so in the circles where they socialize. And you can also look at it within the home environment. So just amongst family members, right? So,
Mhm.
I know oftentimes we live in extended family environments. So there's it's siblings, it's cousins, it's aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, etc., all in one environment. So boundaries would also apply there. And like we said earlier, boundaries are limits we put in place to convey a message to others that this is as far as I allow certain things to continue, right? So we go through different examples also, but it's a message you convey to others, and um, oftentimes it's sort of very hard messages that we have to convey. It can be very difficult also to convey to others that I feel a certain way, or I'm not able to respond to you in a certain way because you crossed a boundary. Oftentimes, like you said in your introduction, also, we're afraid of appearing selfish. Sometimes we don't
Yes.
want to appear as being uncooperative, and we don't want to appear that we're not willing to do what it takes to make it work, or we try and we get blamed sometimes when we assert our boundaries. We get blamed that we are causing some form of upset in wherever it is. So if it's in the home, if it's in the marriage, that we are causing negative responses from other people. So we get blamed. Sometimes we get gaslighted also. So we need to recognize also that we'll unpack it a bit, but we recognize also that people can resist when you assert boundaries. People can
Mm.
resist it also. It's something that you have to expect, especially if it's something you're doing now recently. So there's always possibly been a pattern of behavior in your relationship. Let's say in a family home, certain siblings have always uh, taken on some certain items, right? They've always freely used certain items belonging perhaps to anyone and everyone. When you start asserting that boundary, that this is my item and I'd like you to ask before you use it, you may meet resistance. So that's just a physical example. There's, of course, different types of boundaries. We have physical boundaries, we have emotional boundaries. Now, emotional
Mm-hmm.
boundaries are the harder and the trickier one to really work with, and the trickier one to really assert yourself with. But we'll unpack that a little later also. And then we also have financial boundaries. So financial boundaries essentially looking at money. And we know in our different economic situations, many people have shared finances, or money possibly it's possibly in front of certain people and they feel entitled to use it. So financial boundaries will look at economic, look at money, and then something called intellectual boundaries also. So looking at things like sharing your opinion. Are you allowed to disagree? Are you sometimes, do certain people perhaps not share certain things with you, or wouldn't discuss any concepts with you because they feel that perhaps you don't have the intellectual capacity to discuss it with them. You don't, and they put it to you that you won't understand this, so I'm not going to discuss it with you. You won't understand. You're not going to get it. You don't hold a certain level of maybe intellectual capacity, or you're told that because you don't have a certain maybe level of education, etc., that I will make the decision on your behalf. I will do this for you. You don't get to engage and participate. So there also is a limit to educational boundaries there. People can put that in as well. So those are just some of the types of boundaries that, as you can see, as we explain the type, it's not just confined to a marriage or a romantic personal relationship. So there's quite a few boundaries, and the key also there is healthy. So of course, a relationship is a two-way street. Two people engage in a relationship, and it's a give and take also. So as I am open to allowing a person into my world and to building a relationship with me, I also have to be very in tune with how am I feeling about certain actions, certain behaviors. Recognize also, and we did discuss under our pre-marriage programs, where we also talk to our couples that not everything about your partner is always going to please you. Not everything is always 100% open and acceptable, right? So when we talk about boundaries in a relationship, and even in the working environment also, or in your home environment, your social, your community, whatever the case is, first and foremost, we need to look at how do you feel about whatever is going on around you. If there's a certain incident, if there's a certain discussion, etc. So we encourage people first to know themselves. And that's actually the building block of building healthy relationships, healthy career development, healthy community action. It's the building block of so many things in a family, in a home, in a community, and in a country. It starts with knowing yourself. So that would fall under self-development. And I know we've done a few programs also where we constantly refer to self-development as part of other topics. So again, we'll refer to self-development just to underpin how critical it is. When we set boundaries, we look at a person's self-development. And where do we learn about boundaries, right? So we learn about boundaries. Ideally, it's supposed to start from a very young age. So our homes that we grow up in, the families that we are socialized in, we are taught about and we learn about our feelings. We learn to vocalize our feelings, how we feel about certain things. We learn also what we find acceptable and what we don't find acceptable. So, for example, children who if they own a certain item, let's look at the physical boundary also. They own a certain item and another child comes along to visit and just uses it without their permission. Was the child allowed to express to the parent that so-and-so used that item without asking me and I didn't like that? Or were they just forced and told that you're not supposed to say that, you have to share, you must share your things. It's okay if somebody always uses it. People don't have to ask you. You must have a very open heart. So oftentimes a child's the thoughts behind their feelings get minimized, and then their feelings get rejected. Okay, so when we grow up in an environment where our feelings get rejected and we're taught to suppress our feelings, as we get older and we start engaging with other people, we, of course, naturally, it's now part of us, so we don't express our feelings. We then taught to put our feelings behind, and we put other people's feelings first. Now, when you come to a relationship, and when it comes to relationship boundaries, putting somebody else's feelings first also can be quite harmful, because oftentimes we then take responsibility for how they feel in the relationship. Okay, and we are now crossing boundaries, and our partner can also cross our boundaries. When we take responsibility for their feelings and their happiness in a relationship, oftentimes we then we allow certain things to occur that we're not comfortable with, purely because we want this relationship to continue. We want this relationship, we don't want to sort of rock the boat, and we don't want to trigger anything. So we take that responsibility on for ourselves, that I need to do what it takes to make this work. So, and oftentimes people in relationships, one spouse may tell the other spouse that you need to do this to make our marriage work. You need to do behavior A, or you need to overlook behavior A so that our relationship can work, so that I don't have to get upset about certain things. It's your responsibility to make me happy. We get told that straight, very directly, and oftentimes it also gets told indirectly, maybe through other family members also who may be coming through and discussing the state of a certain relationship, and they may be violating boundaries, a couple's boundary also. But other family members may also allow certain people to feel that, well, it's your responsibility. And most often we find that the wife gets told that it's her responsibility to build the home, it's her responsibility, it's her interactions that will allow the marriage to be happy, or she sets the tone, she sets the atmosphere of the home. So oftentimes it gets put on her. So part of setting healthy boundaries also is accepting what is within your capacity, what is fairly placed on you in terms of responsibility, and also what is not. Okay, so recognizing also that your partner's happiness is not in your hands. Your partner's happiness is in their hands, just as your happiness is in your hands. So if your partner is not happy in the relationship, it's not for you to take on that it's now my fault. Okay, so there's a boundary that you will also set, a limit to somebody else's emotional well-being that you have to take on. Okay, for children, even in terms of siblings, where perhaps there's one dominant sibling in the home and other siblings then have to work around that person, what that person needs, what that sibling wants. They are then, the other siblings may then be expected to suppress their thoughts, their feelings around that, and give in to the one sibling. So it can happen in the home environment, in the work environment also, where one person possibly taking on all the responsibility for teamwork that is possibly not happening. I know the work environment has shifted in the past a good many years to more teamwork and a lot more communication and interaction between people to get projects done and to interact more. So the work environment also requires boundaries. So people not taking on other people's responsibilities, doing work for themselves, not taking on somebody else's work and passing it off also on their own, because that is a violation of the person who did the work. That's a violation of their boundary also. So that's just certain examples of where it can occur. In a relationship also, we need people to be very in tune with themselves. Be very aware of red flags that they are feeling. If something is happening and they're not okay about it, they're not happy to accept this behavior. A healthy relationship and somebody who is able to express their boundaries, they will then express it. For example, if your partner goes ahead and accepts an invitation without consulting with you, and in the beginning, if we express that this is something that's important to me, mutual consultation, Shura is very important to me, and your partner goes ahead and violates it, what happens next, right? So oftentimes we tell ourselves to accept it, but we know we're not happy with it. So we then, when we're working with couples, we task them sort of with attaching a consequence to whatever has happened. Now, when we talk about consequence doesn't have to refer to something punitive, something punishing. A consequence can just be a result of actions. So, for example, if your spouse accepts an invitation and hasn't consulted with you and you may then say that, well, you've gone ahead and invited the neighbors over. When I come home from work, I'm usually quite tired. I will need time to rest, so I won't be able to stay with them. I won't spend that time with them. So that is, it's a consequence, but can you hear how it's not necessarily something punitive? It's not where, well, now you're going to pay a price. It's not where anyone is going to be punished in some way or pointing it out that you're going to pay for what you have done. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
just a result of the actions that are occurring. So that is how we also help people to start putting boundaries into place when they're not able, when they haven't done it before. Okay, and so like I said earlier, also when you start putting into place, you often get met with a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
However, we then also develop your communication skills, so you're able to communicate in a very tactful way, in a very fair way, in a very balanced way, that behavior A is in place. I am putting behavior A in place, um, not to necessarily explain yourself, but just to also point out that this is why I'm doing something, and I choose to do it, and it's within my rights to do that. It's within my limits to also put this into place because there's only so much I can do, and people will then learn that this is a boundary that they cannot cross with you. Okay,
Mhm.
so people will
All right.
eventually get used to it and start learning also where your boundaries and how far they can engage with you.
All right, Shuhaida, it's time to take a break and we will continue afterwards. I want us to talk about what words can we use when we're setting up boundaries and when somebody oversteps our boundaries so that, we are on the same page and it doesn't come across as disrespectful and argumentative or whatever they might regard it as. But do stay on the line and we will continue thereafter.
In South Africa, countless numbers of sick patients leave their homes at the crack of dawn to join long queues at clinics and public hospitals, many of them suffering pangs of hunger in addition to the symptoms of disease. The Al Imdad Foundation's Slice for Life teams deliver sandwiches to these patients at more than 40 hospitals and clinics across the country. Help us to keep on relieving hunger. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
It is the end of season sale at Minty's Fabrics this week, with specials at incredibly low prices once again. Discover Minty's summer fabrics from 25 Rand per meter, ready-to-wear evening dresses starting from 1,500 Rand, and haute couture beaded fabrics from 399 per meter, making Minty's the only place to be this week. Follow our social pages for more information. Minty's 542 Ridge Road, Durban. COVID protocols to be adhered to by all Minty's clients with necessary measures in place.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk with me, Maryam Mkwanda. It is 12:19. We are talking about setting healthy boundaries with Islamic Careline Shuhaida Adam. And before the break, I wanted to know what words can we use? Words are very important, and you just use one wrong word, and then it's like you're cut off for life. So, what words can we use when, especially when somebody oversteps our boundaries, or when we are setting boundaries, and just to let people know, especially with our parents and our in-laws, it can be quite challenging.
It definitely can. And, like you said, saying the wrong word or just sort of using the wrong tone can also trigger family feuds for generations on end. And of course, we want to avoid that. So
Hmm.
it depends also on the context that we're talking about, right? So
Yeah.
when it's, there's boundaries also relating to a person's physical space, right? And also sexual boundaries. So also what is appropriate, what is not appropriate.
Yes.
Sometimes there are strangers who will violate those boundaries, or perhaps people who are in the work environment and they are making inappropriate comments, or it's straight up harassment, or discussing content that is inappropriate that you feel is inappropriate for a colleague to be engaging in, etc. So oftentimes we can be very straightforward with our colleagues, and I hope that every work environment has the space for people to be straightforward and for people to address inappropriate behavior. So oftentimes people are just very straightforward and state that this is inappropriate. You are not my spouse, or I haven't given you permission to touch me in this way, or I haven't done this, that, right? Very straightforward, and there's not necessarily such a worry about offending the perpetrator or the person who is crossing the boundary, right? However, if there's a more personal relationship with this person and the nature of how they're crossing boundaries is a bit more, let's say it's a bit more emotionally charged, where somebody may be minimizing your feelings about a certain thing that had happened. So, for example, if it was a family function and there was some violation of your feelings in some way, or some minimizing of your feelings, and you use the tricky one with the in-laws, so of course you have to tread very carefully there. So oftentimes we can just speak about myself, so using I languages, and that's key. We use that also not just in terms of setting boundaries, but in general in terms of building relationships and communicating with people, and even parenting. We talk about using I languages. So I noticed a certain behavior, or I noticed a certain thing had occurred, and this is how I felt about it. And I would like to ask you to perhaps, for example, please not to engage in that again, or please not to use my item without asking me. So also just put a request forward. So this is this is what I see. This is what I feel about it. And you can also state why you believe that it was crossing your boundary. So say, for example, simple thing as you use my item without asking. Look, it is my item. I spent money on that, and I look after this very well. I don't really want anyone else to use it. Something as simple as that, saying why you believe the boundary has been crossed, and also a suggestion for the future. In the future, just ask me. In the future, if you'd like to use this, you can even ask my partner, and my partner will then check with me. In a marriage also, when people are living together, people are closer in more closer settings, people can also then share about how they feel about something, and they can go a bit more in terms of their feelings there also. So again, context specific, how close you are to the person that you are engaging with. Okay, people also they tend to also know a lot about the people that they're engaging with, so they can also use just sort of their prior knowledge about the person they're engaging with. Just how much they would like to share. Oftentimes people share quite a bit, and the person that they're sharing with is not very receptive to what they're saying. So they may be resistant to you sharing your feelings. So be aware there that if you're meeting with resistance, you don't always have to also win the person over and help them and make them see your point. If they don't accept your point, we will leave it at that. Because remember, we spoke also about personal boundaries is when you are not responsible for how other people feel, you're also just responsible for yourself and your emotional well-being. If people choose not to accept that you feel a certain way, we do recommend that you leave it at that and accept that there will be a difference and it's possibly always a disagreement. And you can also point that out also, that you and I don't seem to have the same thoughts about this, let's say this issue, whatever this issue is. You and I don't seem to see it in similar light, so that's absolutely okay. However, I will continue to feel it this way, and I'm going to ask that you maybe respect my thoughts on that. You don't have to agree with me, but you can respect that I think differently about certain, whatever it is. Okay. Oftentimes in physically intimate relationships, we also get we want people to discuss just relating to physical intimacy also. Certain actions that people are comfortable with, certain levels of intimacy that they're comfortable with, and we would like them to be in a position where they can express it to their partner also, and their partner is open to receiving that feedback also from somebody. Because we know also abuse is so rife in our communities, Sometimes people when they're in a healthy relationship also, there may be certain triggers that take them back to an abusive relationship. So we want people also to be able to share that with their partner, that perhaps a certain action that you do, it triggers a very difficult memory for me. Can we please not engage in that? We can rather do something else. Okay, so we want people to be able to share their comfort levels also, because in the beginning we spoke about self-development, knowing yourself, knowing what are red flags for you, and then you are feeling comfortable to be able to share that. So in a relationship where there's healthy boundaries, we also respect each other's boundaries. So if my partner shares that, for example, they don't want me to use their car, just as an example, without permission, and my partner is sleeping in the afternoon, for example, and I want to use their car, and I go ahead and do it, and they don't even know. Recognize also that this is a violation of their boundaries, and we can oftentimes we justify it in our minds that, oh, they don't know, or no harm came of it, or it was no big deal. But the fact that we went against what our partner's request is, or what this person's boundary is, their limit is, it also looks at how cooperative are we and how respectful are we of what our partner's asking in our relationships also.
Yeah, people need to learn to be respectful of people's boundaries. I know that with my sister, or rather as sisters, or other siblings, you tend to have like that feeling of, oh, but she's my sister, she won't mind me not asking her, and let me just take her stuff and use it. Or perhaps she's not around, and you'll be like, no, but she's not here, like you just mentioned. No, they wouldn't know, but you just need to ask. Sometimes you just need to ask, and if they are okay with it, then they will allow you. And if they're not okay with it, then you should respect the fact that they are not okay with it. Now, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming when when you are caught off guard, when somebody steps over your boundary or crosses your boundary. How do you respond to those feelings of, somebody just crossed your boundary right now, and you're not sure what to do or how to handle the situation?
Okay, so when it happens in the moment, oftentimes we, like you said, we become disoriented also. There's a sense of panic that something's happening. I don't like what's happening, but I don't know what to do about it. So we often get into a bit of a panic, and the easiest thing is to just sort of smile and not really do anything, or say, oh, it's okay, don't worry. That is the easiest thing. However, what we encourage people is to just take some time for yourself. Okay, and the only way you'll really be able to, if you haven't done this before and you're not used to it, is if you put it into practice. Allow yourself also to not get it right initially, but take some time where if a certain thing has happened, your boundary has been violated, you can verbalize also that, I'm not really okay with what has happened. I need some time to think about this. Okay, and then to step out of the situation or step back or ask the person, can we hold on with that for now? Something like that. So if a person is perpetrating a certain behavior, of course, it mustn't be a direct violation, an absolute violation. Then we need people to stop that immediately. If you're not too certain about how to feel about it, your best option is to pause at that time. Tell the person that I'm not sure about this. Can we hold off with this until I've decided on, until I know how I want to move forward with this. Okay, so you have to sort of force some time to think about it, and then step back and think about why were you not okay with it. So again, doing a bit of reflection into yourself and looking at why was I not okay with it? What happened when that happened? So when the boundary was sort of crossed, what happened to me? If you notice that you had some negative feelings, you had some negative thoughts, go with it and try to understand internally. You can do all of this process internally, but why are you not okay with this? What was it about whatever it is that happened? What was it about this incident? Or what was it about this comment that made you just uneasy? Go with that sense of uneasiness. Try and unpack. Don't dismiss it. There's a reason why you felt uneasy, or why something was triggered. Some form of distress came about because of the incident or the action. So go with it. Take some time to recognize what was it that you were not happy about. What do you feel? What boundary do you feel was crossed? What was inappropriate? What did you feel was disrespected? Take some time, and then take also some time to also formulate a bit of a response to this person, how you would like to go about it. Because oftentimes also when we speak in the moment, we speak in maybe out of panic even, or we speak in out of fear. And fear is a key factor why people don't want to enforce their own boundaries, because we're afraid of upsetting the next person. We're afraid of the relationship breaking. We're afraid of losing the connection that we had with this person because we're trying to assert healthy boundaries. However, with a healthy relationship, it needs to be a healthy friendship, a healthy working environment, a healthy community environment. We need to be able to express our limits. We need to be able to communicate in a way that we feel safe. And then we know that that is a healthy relationship. If it's not there, we'd like to put some methods into place so that we can also learn to build healthy relationships.
All right, Shuhaida, shukran for your time. Now, quickly tell us, does Islamic Careline offer assistance to people who are looking to set boundaries?
We do. So we can do it as part of, if somebody wants to come in individually and they want to just do some self-development counseling one-on-one with the counselor, we can do that. With a couple, with parents, we also work with parents in terms of parenting. How can they help the children develop in a very healthy and functional way? What parenting methods can they use? And then we're also looking to do, we do self-development programs. So certain life skills programs where we also cover things like communication, conflict resolution, just general self-development programs that people can, if they can arrange a group or if they want to be put into a group and we have a workshop running, they're welcome to join that also. And just to find out more, they can contact us on 011 373 8080.
All right, shukran once again, and thank you for that insight and knowledge that you've just shared with us.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was social worker for Islamic Careline, Shuhaida Adam, taking us through setting healthy boundaries. It's very important to set boundaries. It's not just for yourself, but it's for the relationship and for the other person. And that will also help the other person to set boundaries for themselves as well. And Shuhaida mentioned that it's not your responsibility to make anyone happy. And that should be a boundary, especially when you go into a marriage relationship with a partner and they are expecting you to make them happy. That is a false idea that has been sold to us by Hollywood and Nollywood and all these other woods. So do not expect to make your partner happy, because you will have happy days and sad days, but you can contribute to their happiness. They won't make you happy, or you might not make them happy, but they can contribute to that happiness. And it is your sole responsibility for that. So set boundaries, set healthy boundaries with your family, with your friends. Let them know what they can and cannot do, and also watch your tone and the words that you use when you are addressing the situation when they have crossed your boundaries. It is 12:33. Do stay with us. We will be back after the break.